Perfect. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. For those who are here in real life and for those who are watching on the replay, thank you. We're very excited. So I am super excited to have Camille Lawson join me this evening, and she's going to present herself and who she is and what she is. But I've been following her for a while, and I was so honored when I reached out to her and asked her to join me on this webinar, because Camille really is a very strong and powerful voice in the menopause and women's health arena. So I'm really honored that you're joining me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And Camille, maybe you want to introduce yourself just at the beginning, and then I'll go into my presentation. And then again, anyone who wants to comment or chat or anything, do that in the chat box. And then after I present, then Camille will present.
Perfect. And I was also going to add, Jacqueline, because we are a smaller group live, if anybody at the end, we could do some live Q&A if people have questions.
Definitely.
I mean, you've read my bio, it was on the flyer, and I'm honored to be here, Jacqueline, and present with you. You're just as knowledgeable, and I learn. I've got my notebook right here, so I'll be learning from you today as well. My background is a healthcare professional, and then I also trained as a sexuality therapist, which people always find a little bit intriguing. And along the way, what I wanted to share with you is how did I get into hormones? People are always like, why happened? How did you become sort of interested and so passionate about them? And mine starts with me, which is true of how we learn so many things. So I was 39 years old and I got PMS out of the blue, hit me like that. I started crying and like raging, and that is so not my personality. And it was quite frightening. And I don't know if anybody can relate, but like really frightening. I was anxious. I overreacted to everything. And so I like to research everything and learn. And I quickly learned that that was usually caused by lower progesterone, which is caused by estrogen dominance. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it fascinated me. And I then started digging, and I realized there is so little information for us as women to learn about our hormones in general. And family doctors, bless their hearts, they don't know everything, and they really don't know about hormones, and they really don't know about a lot of nutritional solutions and lifestyle solutions. So I've immersed myself in hormones and women's health, and of course the umbrella of sexuality. Nutrition is so important. So over the years, I've just, that's my thing, is to help women be empowered, because as Jacqueline well said, knowledge is power, and you want to be in the driver's seat of your health. You make the choices. So that's why I'm here.
Amazing. And yeah, I'm passionate about hormones also, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's an area that women really don't know very much about. So I'm so happy you're here joining me. I'm going to share my screen to start the presentation, if I can find it. Where is it? Should be there, but I don't think you guys can see it yet. 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. I think I need to close some windows so that I can share my screen in the way that I want to share it. So 1 minute, everyone. Let me just close a few windows, and then I will be able to share my screen. So we're going to close those windows, and we're going to close those windows, and hope that the windows that are open, well, is anyone
are the right ones?
Are the right ones. For some reason, it does not want to share my screen with this one. Okay, let's close some more. Okay, so let's come back over here and let's share my screen now. Yay, here it appears. Okay, so reclaiming your mojo. Can everyone see that? Yeah, perfect, excellent. Okay, so this is the beginning of my presentation. So reclaiming your mojo, managing your stress in midlife, and there is so much going on in midlife during our menopause journey, and stress is a big thing, and that's what we're really here to talk about today. So who am I? I am Jacqueline. I am founder of the Yoga Room, yoga teacher for women's health, menopause coach, and really a passionate women's health advocate, empowering women to take control of their health story. And I'm passionate about changing the way that women experience their health and wellness, about creating awareness and understanding of what's going on in their bodies. And for me, the language of my communication and my, the way that I work with women is through yoga, this very specific niche of yoga for women's health. These pictures represent in, one slide who and what I am. I am a mum of 5 kids. Those 5 butts you see there belong to me. I live the juggle. That nice rugby scrum is often how we feel, and definitely how I'm feeling at the moment, because I added that new picture of a kid homeschooling, learning via Zoom, because that's what most of our lives have become now, and especially with 5 kids, that's what my life has become. And I'm an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, and I, do all the stuff at home, and occasionally I also manage to do a bit of yoga. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. And I'm really going to jump straight into this because I am 46 and I am definitely perimenopausal. But before, maybe about 2 years ago, I'd never even heard the word perimenopause. And the image of what menopause was to me was what we see and hear. And so I'm going to ask you, if you want to share in the chat box, what do you think of? What do you feel when you hear the word menopause? And this really is where we begin our conversation, because to a lot of what we are dealing with is this, and that is media that is full of negative symptoms, negative connotations, negative images of menopause. And this is just a few of them that, that I pulled out. And it really is that negative, that sort of making a joke of the woman, that this one I love, menopause. So what you're saying is that I've got to look forward to 10 years of hell followed by death. Am I missing anything? Or, the 7 witches of menopause. This is how we have been educated about menopause. Menopause makes you crazy. When you reach bottom of craziness, you find there's an underground garage. It's funny, yes, and we all sort of nod our heads and we all joke and we all smile, and we've got so many television shows and movies that portray this image of who this menopausal woman is. And it's not helped by the fact that we also have this very overwhelming page of all the negative symptoms that we talk about and that women talk about, or more correctly, we don't talk about, that we'll get onto in a minute. But all these negative things, all these symptoms that women experience at this time of life, and all of this is just this baggage that women carry about what menopause is. And part of my mission is to really change that, and to really bust the myths, and to really get back to basics, and to really understand what is menopause really, and to change our conversation around it. So menopause is not a disease. It is a natural stage of your life journey. Just like a woman goes through puberty, goes through fertility years, she will also go through menopause. It is not something that she can catch. It's not something that she may or may not have. Every woman has it. The question is, how do you experience it? And that's what we're going to talk about later. It is a date in the calendar year. So I call it menopause journey because it is a journey of years. But actual menopause is a date in the calendar year. It is the date of your last period. And you need 12 period-free months to be able to go back and say, I am in menopause. And it is a time of natural hormonal fluctuation. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, because during menopause journey, your hormones are naturally fluctuating. Okay. I chose these 3 sentences to counterbalance all that negative myth that we have around menopause. And let me know if any of these resonate with you. You can choose 1, 2, or 3. And this is really the journey that I want to take women on. That your menopause is an exciting time, of a time of rebirth, metamorphosis, and discovery. It is a process of becoming your most authentic and true self. It is the journey that you have to step into the next exciting phase of your life with wisdom, strength, and confidence. And for many women, they are so far from any of this frame of reference that there is a journey to get there. And that's really how I support women, to remove themselves from that negative connotations, from that negative myths, from the negative language that we have around us in society and movie, films, and culture, pop culture, etc., and to reach this type of understanding and awareness. But it is a journey, and it doesn't happen overnight, and that is part of how I support women. There are a multitude of potential symptoms and side effects, but if you understand what your body is going through and prepare for this stage of life, then you can find plenty of ways to manage, treat, and prevent many of the menopausal side effects. So the thing that we're really going to be talking about today is about stress, and Camille is really going to go deep into the management and treatment and that whole side of things. I will touch on it a little bit, but really that is the place that we as women want how we want to experience our menopause journey, to understand that menopause journey shows up in many ways: physical, emotional, cognitive, and that page of all those red symptoms do exist. They are real. But if we're prepared and if we know how to manage, treat, and prevent, we can change our experience. But the problem is that there are so many things that women don't feel comfortable talking about, as Camille said at the beginning. All they want to do is feel normal, but there is no conversation around menopause. There's no conversation about what we are going through. And if we don't talk about it, then we stay in a place of confusion, of suffering, of shame, and of embarrassment. And no woman is served well when she is feeling those emotions. So, menopause and stress. Why do we feel so overwhelmed and out of balance during midlife? And I'm going to go a little bit into the hormonal story. I know that Camille will discuss more of it later on, but I'm going to try and talk about some of the key hormones that are related to stress, what normal stress looks like, and what menopause and stress look like. So, what is stress? What is stress in a normal day? What does stress look like in a normal, in our normal lives? So stress is the fight or flight response. It is the opposite to the rest and digest. It is the activation of our sympathetic nervous system, the release of adrenaline and cortisol into our bodies, and the shutdown of key systems in our bodies, because we need to be hyper alert. Our blood, our energy, all our focus is on that fight or the flight or fight response of being in the moment, when we have to be super aware, super alert. So other unnecessary or secondary functions in our body take a back seat, and our sympathetic nervous system is really functioning on high alert. That's what it looks like, on a regular day, let's say. What is cortisol? We're going to delve into that cortisol hormone just a little bit. It is a super important hormone in the body. Again, we're talking about it, why cortisol is important on a regular, normal day, with regular subtle stress triggers. So it manages how our body uses carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. It boosts energy so we can handle a stress moment and restore balance afterwards. It keeps inflammation down, regulates our blood pressure, increases our blood sugar, because we need to have that blood sugar, that energy surge when we're in a stress situation. And it controls our sleep and awake cycle. Cortisol in normal situations should fluctuate naturally over the course of our day, where it is higher in the mornings when we need that energy, we need to be awake, we need to be alert, and it naturally drops in the evening. So that's sort of the important role that cortisol plays in our bodies in regular normal function. When there is a stress trigger, and again, we're talking about a normal stress trigger, the traditional ways that we explain stress and that fight or flight response is that, you know, hundreds of years ago when you were, you know, hunting for animals and we had to escape from that saber-toothed tiger that was trying to chase us. That's sort of the evolution of how we always discuss fight or flight. But it's sort of, you know, you're in a stressful situation, and then the stressful situation passes. So under those normal stress triggers, your heart beats faster, your muscles tighten, blood pressure rises, you get quickness of breath, and our senses become sharper. And these physical changes are super important. They are meant to make us super alert. Our reaction time is more alert. Our focus is more sharp. And basically, we are in a danger situation, and our body is now reacting to that danger situation so that we can respond and survive that danger situation. However, what has happened in our modern lives? What is going on in our modern society? And now we're talking about something called chronic stress. And this, unfortunately, is very much a 20th, 21st century phenomenon. That our system, our stress system, is constantly activated. Our cortisol and adrenaline is constantly high. Our adrenal glands are constantly producing cortisol because we are living in high stress lives. So it becomes easier to trigger, harder to shut down, and we have constant cortisol and adrenaline being pumped around our bodies. This constant stress, chronic stress, where we have maintained these high hormonal levels, cause a lot of health impacts, negative health impacts. It suppresses our immune system, upsets our digestive system and reproductive system, increased case of heart attacks or stroke, tightening or tensing up of muscles creates pain points because our muscles never relax, difficulty falling asleep, restlessness, impaired concentration, a whole nice long list of health and wellness impacts because of chronic high stress. Inhibits insulin production, insulin resistance, which is very important, also as it relates to menopause. I'm just going to touch very quickly on adrenal fatigue. Camilla, are you going to talk about adrenal fatigue? I don't think you are.
Not really. I was going to leave that to you.
Okay, great. So adrenal fatigue is something that medical doctors do not like to diagnose. In the more natural health and wellness field, we talk about adrenal fatigue a lot, but it is basically our adrenal glands that are, I'm just going to touch on it so that you are aware of it, because it definitely it is included in this conversation of stress and menopause journey, midlife women. Our adrenal glands are pumping adrenaline and cortisol now in our modern lives, super high the whole time. Our adrenal glands cannot keep up production, and therefore they're just tired. Our adrenal glands get fatigued and they can't maintain production to respond to this perpetual fight or flight stimuli. It's difficult to adrenal insufficiency. I'm not going to go into it, but it's just there. So just as a point. Symptoms of adrenal fatigue include tiredness, trouble falling asleep. The symptoms are very similar to other things like thyroid issues and other things, depression, mild depression. So it's difficult to diagnose for some people. They're non-specific, and they can be associated with other things, but adrenal fatigue is super important for what we're going to talk about for menopausal women. And that's why I want you to have this concept in your head, because it may be relevant for you. Just have that name of what it is and why it may happen. Because now this is where it gets really exciting for those women who are on their menopause journey. As we know, menopause is a time, as I said, of natural hormonal fluctuation. And if we arrive at this stage already hormonally depleted, in parentheses, stressed out the whole time, adrenal glands working overtime, high cortisol, high adrenaline, which we saw have profound health implications, it makes it harder for our body to navigate this time. Because we have we have these two things going on. We have the hormonal fluctuations of menopause, and we have the hormonal implications of stress, and these two things come together. So during our menopause journey, though, we're going to add another layer of interest and complication. Our adrenal glands take over estrogen production from our ovaries. We know that during menopause journey, eventually, as I said, your periods will stop because your ovaries stop working in the same way. They stop functioning, they stop producing eggs, they stop producing estrogen. However, women maintain a certain level of estrogen production in their bodies post-menopause, but that estrogen production is produced by our adrenal glands. However, our adrenal glands produce lower levels of estrogen and are not as efficient producers as our ovaries. If they are already exhausted and running on full gas and overtime from the cortisol and adrenaline production, they will not be able to produce the estrogen, the small levels of estrogen that we need and require in menopause years, and especially in postmenopause. So we are creating now a perfect storm of hormonal imbalance. Basically, our adrenal glands will always choose to produce cortisol and adrenaline, because that is their key function, over the production of estrogen and progesterone, which is their secondary function in later menopause years and postmenopause. And that's bad news for women, because we need that small maintenance level of estrogen for our health and well-being. So we really now have this perfect hormonally imbalanced storm where we have super continued stress levels coupled with natural hormonal imbalance during menopause years, plus the reduction of estrogen that the adrenal glands are meant to be overtaking, but the adrenal glands are suffering either adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion or adrenal overwork, and they can't keep up. So I hope I haven't depressed you all too much yet, and I hope that I've explained why a menopausal woman, a woman in her midlife years, just can't get control of her emotional well-being and her stress levels, because there is no way. It's just impossible. The reason why we survived before our menopause, you can say, but like nothing's changed. I was leading a stressful life before. I was juggling before, and I'm juggling now. So what's the difference? And as I've said, our estrogen and progesterone levels were more stable and predictable before. During our pre-menopause years, every month there is a predictable flow of estrogen and progesterone, our monthly menstrual cycle. It is predictable. We know what's going to happen. And our bodies can work against the impact of the uncontrolled cortisol because it's more predictable and our ovaries are producing that estrogen level. And also our adrenal glands are not doing double function, because now as we're in menopause years and our estrogen is all over the place, up and down, this total hormonal fluctuation and imbalance, we're calling upon our adrenal glands to take on this extra work, and they just don't want to. They've had enough themselves. So can we live our busy modern lives and feel normal during menopause years? Is there a way to decrease the effects and impact of stress on our bodies and stress in our lives? Now, this is really where Camilla is going to talk a lot about the strategies and all the things that she does with in her work. But I just want to bring in 2 points that relate to my area of work. 2 keys to reducing stress. First is, the juggle does not need to be a struggle. As women, we are multitaskers. We juggle everything. And as you saw at the very, very beginning of my presentation, I am juggling lots and lots of different things. But I firmly believe that the juggle does not need to be a struggle, and it's about the decisions, the proactive decisions you make of how you structure your day, how you create balance, how you look after your own health and well-being. There are lots and lots of things that women can do so that the juggle doesn't need to be a struggle. But there needs to firstly be a mindset shift in what that means, that we are always going to juggle because that's what we do very well as women. But that doesn't need to be hormonally, emotionally depletive. I'm sorry, there's quite a lot of screaming behind me. So that doesn't need to be hormonally depleting juggle. We need to know our boundaries. We need to know when to say no. We need to know when to give time to ourselves. We need to know how to create balance. And there are lots of different ways to do that. Some of the things that I do with my women during the work I do with them as a menopause coach, but just also, you know, calming, creating a bit more calm in our lives. And it is possible as long as you do it with conscious intention. The next thing is remember to breathe. And I know it sounds so easy. Our breath is so important. I think I'm missing an E there on that breathe. Our breathing is so important. And this really is the basis of what we do when in our yoga practice, is breathing. And you don't need to be doing an hour-long session of yoga or an hour-and-a-half session of yoga to breathe. You can breathe at any point in the day. We just forget, and we forget how to breathe properly. That deep, slow, calming breath, calming us down, reducing the activity of the sympathetic nervous system and increasing the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system. One of the key strategies I say to the women that I work with is breathe in between errands. So let's say you're in the car and you're running around, you're running from work to the supermarket to collect kids or to do whatever it is you need to do. Before you get out the car to do the next thing, just take 2 minutes to breathe. Even 2 minutes of deep, deep focused breathing can change the way you feel. So those two strategies of creating space in your day, within the juggle, creating more balance, and the breathing, the deep breathing, are the really foundational two strategies that any and every woman can do as long as she is consciously engaged with what she's doing, which is another discussion for another time. So what would happen if you could really change the way you understand and experience your menopause journey? What if you could really get empowered to take control? And this is really, I want to just talk about for just 1 minute very quickly about how I support women, because as you saw at the beginning of my presentation, there are such a lot of negative connotations. It's not only about your experience, it's about the understanding and the language that we use to get to that place of it being an empowering journey, a process of becoming. That is really, you know, what I would wish for every woman to be able to do. This is a quote from Dr. Christiane Northrup, who is one of the pioneers in changing the women's health story for women. If you don't know her, you should definitely look her up. Menopause is being recognized as the exciting next phase of a woman's life. It holds enormous promise for transforming and healing our bodies, minds, and spirits at the deepest level. And that really should be the definition of what menopause is. So I support and guide women to change the way they understand and experience their menopause. And I navigate them to embrace their menopause journey with ease, joy, and confidence using a holistic yoga-based approach. And as I said at the beginning, really the modality of yoga for women's health, which is the modality of yoga that I'm trained in, is really a very unique way of using yoga as a tool to allow women to embrace and connect with their body over their life cycle. Work with women in two ways, and that is I have a 6-week menopause starter program, which really takes the woman on a deep, deep journey of changing, of transformation, of really changing the way that she understands menopause and gives her the tools to experience it differently. And I also do one-on-one menopause consultation for those women who are really struggling with specific symptoms. And I also have a Facebook group, which I'm so excited about. It is my way of really engaging directly with women, and I invite every one of you to join the Facebook group. It is a safe, private space to get educated, to get empowered, to get information and share your experiences. And I also share a lot of trainings and value and content in that group. So I invite everyone to join that group. And if you are here and you want more help, you want more guidance, I'm offering everyone here a 15-minute free discovery call. So that comes to the end of my presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I see there were lots of chats and comments, but Camille, that is me done. And maybe we'll just have a very quick look at the chat and see if there's anything that needs to be mentioned. So I think it relates to what I talked about at the beginning about the different quotes that I put up about how you would like to view your menopause
the ways how we can look at it out of a different lens.
Yeah,
really. And that I always believe, and as a therapist, that we have choice. I mean, we've all heard that saying. We can't really always affect what happens to us, but we can affect how we react to it. And I think those quotes were beautiful. And, you know, if women know we do have choices, and sometimes we have to be told and hit on the head with the choices, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That was excellent though, Jacqueline. It's really well put together. I learned a lot.
I know that the hormone discussion gets a little bit complicated because, as you know, hormones interact in our bodies not in, linear ways. They're, the hormones interact in such network ways, which is why, creating hormone balance isn't just a one-stop shop of just do this and you'll be fine. But that's what you're going to talk about. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Thank you. Let me just pull up my slides and put me into, slideshow. And there we go. Absolutely. Hormones. And let me just start. I think I even have a slide for this, but I'm going to dive right in and just say the thing with hormones that many people don't know is they are very complex. And at the end of the day, it's what is a hormone? And a hormone, we have actually 50, almost 60 known hormones in our body. So we tend as women to think of progesterone and testosterone, and I'm going to talk about those. They're very important. But there's a lot of hormones, and they literally are responsible for every chemical message that goes out to affect every part of our body, everything that we do on the cellular level. So hormones are a big deal. Let me just say that, a very big deal. Jacqueline had this slide as well, and I always like it because I'll show you the relationship. Each of those so-called symptoms, which are very real symptoms, and remember, some women actually have all of those symptoms, and that's rough. That's really tough. And some of us have, one or two that are really bad, and maybe a couple that aren't so bad for us. Maybe some people are spared and they kind of sail through and they don't have that. But really, each of those symptoms is related to what's going on hormonally. And so women, as Jacqueline, we saw in her family picture, I love that, Jacqueline. I mean, I have 3 kids who are 18 months apart. They're now in their 20s. I can't relate to 5, but I can assure you that 3 18 months apart during the winter, at putting on snowsuits and all of that, I talk about overwhelm, trying to work as well and doing everything else. So women, we know, and we need to own, I think, and what's the right word? We have to be kind to ourselves when we realize that as women, typically we juggle a lot of different hats, don't we? I mean, I loved your word, Jacqueline, too, CEO. Like, we're CEO of so much. Most of us are working. Many of us are entrepreneurs. It's our kids. It's usually we're the gatekeepers of our family's health, of their food. Even if you have somebody who's great, a partner who can cook and steps in, we know that women still do the lion's share of the organization. Then let's add in a pandemic. You know what? Talk about stress levels as well as just a whole new level of what is going on in so many people's homes. I do not know how you homeschool 5 kids, so my hat's off to you. And I know that for many families, because we've been reading about it and seen it on the news, it is an enormous stress. So the point is, never before have women, and I agree, 2020 and 21 stress levels, which already are hormonal, have been, completely over the top. So cortisol affects everything. And if you take one thing away from what I'm going to talk about, this is key. And Kathy, I know you've heard this and I'm sure you've embraced it already, but what many people don't know is that cortisol, our stress hormone, is what we refer to as a foundation hormone. What does that mean? It means it affects literally every other hormone. So as Jacqueline explained to you about what cortisol does, you can start to see that when it's unbalanced, either way too high for a prolonged period of time or bottoms out into adrenal issues, the fallout for every other hormone is actually very significant. And the point of learning that is that if you're going to try to feel better, the very first place you need to start is to get your cortisol balanced. And I can't emphasize that enough. In our program, which I'm going to talk to you about in a bit, The New Way to Age, we start as that as a foundation principle, because regardless of what symptoms and what ill effects that women are feeling, if they don't get that balanced, all the other things become piecemeal. And I'm sure that makes sense. You're all smart women, that you get that. There's no point in starting with, I don't know, even the anxiety, and start taking medication, which a lot of doctors would want you to do. If you need it, that's a different story. I'm not saying if you don't, but if it's caused by that cortisol deregulation, which it often is, and it's hormonal, you got to start there. And women are always, when they get it balanced, they're like, oh, I feel so much better. Because here's the things, I won't read them all out, but these are some of the symptoms that a lot of women are struggling with every single day. Immune system is one we don't talk about, by the way, very much. And here we are with the pandemic, where immune system is more important, and we're more aware of the importance of our immune system than ever before. Cortisol will kill your immune system. And we actually know that women can get and men can get very significant disease processes a few years after prolonged intense stress. And so, again, getting the cortisol balance can help with so many of these things. I'll add one more thing in, is so many women wake up in the middle of the night, usually between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom. And as Jacqueline explained with our adrenals, often that's cortisol, because our adrenal glands sit on top of our kidneys. And your adrenals in the nighttime now are working overdrive, making this cortisol, which they're not supposed to be in the evening. They're supposed to be letting you sleep. And so it's pushing on the kidneys. And yes, indeed, you do have to go to the washroom, but it's really starting because of the cortisol. So there's really a huge amount of disruption. So as I said, 50 hormones regulates everything. It's just for you to really understand that when hormones are like a symphony, I often describe them as, a symphony, practices and beautiful balance and different instruments. Well, that's exactly how our hormones function. And so when one or more is out of balance, the fallout is actually on all of the hormones. And again, starting with cortisol. So I want to quickly go through some of the key hormones that cortisol is affecting, and looking at some of the symptoms that many women come to me in my practice and as a coach and talk about. So estrogen is so important for many, many things, but here's what happens when estrogen is out of whack. That brain fog, that can't remember things, lacking that clarity. And that, I can assure you, is very frustrating, right? If you're someone who's been sharp and all of a sudden you're not, and you can't remember where your keys are, and you can't remember what was going to come out of your mouth, it's frightening, actually. Estrogen also is partly responsible with our mood. So when you get that irritability, that rage, that can be estrogen dominance that's too high. It can also be estrogen that's bottomed out. Estrogen is responsible for, let's talk vaginas. We never talk about this, right, Jacqueline? I mean, dry vaginas is low estrogen. Thin, thinning vaginal walls that hurt if you're having intercourse or even hurt doing anything. That's all caused by low estrogen. They even have a word that I hate, which is vaginal atrophy, like, ew. And you know what? Who wants to feel like that? But that's our estrogen. And so I love, Jacqueline, that you included that piece that if our cortisol is at a nice level, our adrenals, in fact, they don't replace the amounts of estrogen and progesterone that we had before, but they certainly do their best to give us some of that estrogen. So that's really, really important. Again, just showing you some of the effects. Heart is one. So some women experience a lot of anxiety in perimenopause and menopause, and they also experience as bad as heart palpitations, which if you've ever had them, I haven't, very frightening. I used to work in Emerge as a nurse, and and people coming in with heart issues is one of the number one reasons people go, and you should go get it checked. So absolutely you should. But many women, because of their estrogen, that's what's causing the heart palpitations. Liver is another one we don't talk a lot about. I'm going to talk about toxins in a few moments, but our liver is really important that it's functioning properly because we have what's called xenoestrogens. Have you guys heard of xenoestrogens? They're the bad estrogen. They are fake estrogen. They are the estrogens that we consume in our plastic wrap, in the hormones in meat and foods, all the hormonal stuff in I was going to say some cosmetics and some of things like that. Anyway, xenoestrogens do not. They're false, and so our body doesn't want them, and we must get rid of them, or else there's even more bad effects from those estrogens. And the way our estrogen or too much estrogen is cleared out is our liver. So it's really important that we have a liver that is also functioning really importantly. I know we make fun, but many women suffer from severe hot flashes. And I know women who are desperate and they will do whatever it takes to get those flushes to go down. Perhaps you have to live in the winter to have that extreme. So, here's progesterone is another very important hormone, obviously. And so a couple of key things that people often don't know. Progesterone helps with our sleep and our mood. So it's very calming. And so when I had my PMS back when I was 39 years old, PMS is largely caused by lower progesterone that's causing an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. So remember when I said estrogen and progesterone, all the hormones fluctuate. So when progesterone gets lower, which it often does in women, it does, the estrogen is unchecked. And now what we have is a condition we refer to as estrogen dominance, which causes, again, a lot of issues, including those heart palpitations and mood things and disorders. So progesterone is actually really important. It might be one of my personal favorite hormones because of the calming effect and how important our mood is. And it really does balance out. Testosterone, we think a lot about testosterone, of course, with sex drive, and it is really important. Women have lots of testosterone. Men have certainly a lot more than we do, but it's a very important hormone for so many other reasons as well. It's our muscle, it's our skeletal system, it's our memory, it's our skin, I like to say, sort of your joie de vivre, our bone health, heart health. So there's so many other reasons besides sex drive, although sex drive is very important as well, that testosterone helps. And just a little tidbit as a solution, testosterone in particular is quite susceptible to a lot of the chemicals. So our whole endocrine system is affected by the chemicals we ingest. So it's yet another reason to really choose clean food, clean products in your home, clean cosmetics, clean creams and shampoos and all these things that we're putting in our bodies, day in and day out, really do matter. This I find women really appreciate. So many women's weight is affected by hormones, and cortisol is one of the key reasons why women get that belly fat and the toxicity builds up in our middle body. And if your hormones are out of balance, in particular your cortisol, guess what? You can starve yourself. You can hit that gym 6 days a week doing everything that you think you're supposed to do, and nothing happens. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of women who are darn frustrated by that. They feel like failures. They feel almost shamed about it, and it just kills me. I'll be honest. It just absolutely upsets me to no end, because if they could get the cortisol balance, and if they understood the play of the different hormones and did some just basic things, which I'm going to get to, then they wouldn't have this problem going on, and they would feel empowered, and they would feel healthier, and their body image changes and their confidence changes. But what I can't stand to see is that women who blame and beat themselves up about it, because it's simply, it isn't their fault. One of the key reasons is because cortisol, again, causes insulin sensitivity. It causes sugar cravings. Just ponder for yourself for a moment. We've all had cravings. Don't you feel when you have cravings that you're out of control, that this other outside thing is controlling you, and you don't have a choice about it? That is demoralizing, right? It's certainly disempowering. And that's the problem with the sugar issue that we have. But again, it's not your fault, because our bodies are quite the miracle. Our bodies want to be in balance. So when we eat sugars and simple carbohydrates, we jack up our blood sugar for a little while, we feel really good. And we all have been there, where then you crash because it's not healthy and it's not fixing the underlying problem. So that's one of the reasons as well that it contributes to that body fat. So I love this. We are masterpieces, and we are a work in progress. I learned as a therapist and as a person a long time ago, I love this line: trust the process, right? Just trust the process. We're going to figure it out, and you're here, and you're listening to the replay. So that's awesome. So women like to help each other, don't we? And we like to self-help. I don't know about you. I have a stack of self-help books on my bedside. And I think this is, we share information. The problem is it's not always accurate information. And it's not easy with the media these days, is it? I mean, it's not easy at all to really get your hands on truly accurate, up-to-date information, because we are just bombarded by so many, things. Try this, take this one product, it's going to fix everything. And it doesn't work that way. And that's part of the way, I know, Jacqueline, you feel the same way. Being credible has really been very important to me, to be able to be a trusted source. If I'm aligned with something, if I'm wrong, I'm going to say so, but I really do try to research and learn what's what and what works. So I want to talk very briefly about toxicity, because it plays so much in with the hormones, and the cortisol affects how we process toxins and everything else, as all of our other hormones. So some of these symptoms, again, are common because of hormonal issues, and also can be coupled with toxicity. We know that we live in a very toxic world. You can see here how these are all well-known types of different toxins. They all affect our hormones. They affect our endocrine system. And we know that what we're ingesting, even if you try to be clean, right? The pesticides, the herbicides, what was in our food is not in our food anymore. The hormones, the antibiotics. I try, but I know I still consume different things. And so inevitably we have a buildup, and those toxins, we know, go around that middle body, our organs, to protect them. And that also can contribute to that middle body fat. So part of this is, I promised we'd talk a little bit more about sexuality, but to me, it's the irony of people are like, well, what happened to my sex life? We used to have a good sex life. Where did it go? And if you think about all the different layers that we've just been talking about, so now you've got irritability. We didn't even talk much about sleep. Sleep is dramatically affected by cortisol, as I did talk about, and progesterone. So now you're tired, you're exhausted. Maybe your adrenals are getting a little burnt out. You are, as I say, irritable. Your testosterone is low. And guess what? According to the media, we're supposed to go upstairs at 11 o'clock at night and brush our teeth. And then we're supposed to hop in bed and have rockin' hot sex. And guess what? You've got a dry vagina and it hurts. And that is not happening. I don't know. I think most of us, if we've got a partner, regardless of what the sex of the partner is, That's a very, very common scenario. And it's sad because people miss the intimacy. And I could do a whole talk, Jacqueline, maybe that's another one we can do on sexuality and intimacy, but just to know that intimacy is the glue that holds us together. And so it really is so important that we find ways to reconnect. And that's also about our oxytocin. Oxytocin is our happy, loving hormone that is exuded with intimacy, hugging, touching, not just from a love romantic partner, but also, you know, with our kids, with other friends. And again, we're back to the pandemic. Most of us have been separated from our friends and extended family. So this is a very real thing, and it's really a real hormonal issue. That's just one of my funnies because, you know, that's part of looking after yourself. So we don't have a lot of time. I don't want to finish up, but do think about for yourself, what is stressing you out? You know, what stresses you out the most right now? Sometimes if we can sort of categorize and compartmentalize and identify, then we can dive into some solutions and get some things done. And yes, solutions are very important. So a couple of quick fun facts. One is, we know even when you don't feel like having sex, our vaginas actually like it when we do. So you can use great lubrication if you're finding it's very dry. There's so many good silky ones out there. You can also get bioidentical vaginal creams that a doctor, now they're readily available, even from family doctors. It didn't used to be that way. But we know that the more sex you have, the more sexuality, the more intimate, the more you want. And our vaginas actually respond really well at almost reversing some of what's been going on inside. So there's some incentive if you are, you know, inclined to have intercourse. Self-pleasuring will do it as well. Self-pleasuring, using toys, that sort of thing. I already spoke about oxytocin. Here's some more solutions, just some basic things that are really key that I always share with my clients and also within our New Way to Age group. So next time you're getting blood work done, some key vitamins that make a difference are vitamin D3. You want to make sure, for a long list of reasons, that your vitamin D3 is in the normal range. For most of us, it is not. So you want that in the higher normal range. And for many of us, that requires, just so you know, 5,000 units a day. Some women, it's even more. So you want to know what that number is so that you're not just taking it. But it's very important for hormones in particular, but our immune system and our brain function. And as I say, it goes on and on. Vitamin C. So vitamin C supports our adrenal glands amongst many other things. So vitamin C, we've all heard of it. We all know about it. Many people don't realize that it's a great support for our adrenal glands. So if you're particularly stressed out, you want to be upping your vitamin C, and you can also get that level checked. And again, you know, knowledge is power. Find out what the number is. Magnesium. Oh my gosh. Jacqueline knows, and anyone who knows me, I talk about magnesium all the time. We are chronically, as a world, low in magnesium. They say probably upwards of about 75% of people are low in magnesium. Magnesium is responsible for, helps with mood. It can be very calming. At the same time, it helps with calm, even energy, helps us sleep. It helps with cramping. Sleep is almost a game changer. The best magnesium I have found for those things is to take magnesium glycinate, and you can start with 200 to 400 milligrams at bedtime. You can even take it during the day. Jacqueline covered some of the lifestyle changes. I love some of them. As a therapist, I actually have taught my clients how to practice saying no in front of a mirror. You'd like that, Jacqueline? No, I couldn't possibly do that. I mean, and you never give an excuse. You know that. If you give an excuse, you give the doorway open into changing your no into a maybe or a yes. We as women need boundaries. Boundaries are very important, and just you can read up on that. Getting to know your body, pelvic health, pelvic floor, that's another whole topic. Addressing those relationship issues. Counseling can be a great resource. You know, sometimes just having that person support to talk with. I do keep a counseling practice. I don't, well, just a few hours a week. I do see couples and I do see individuals. So I want to take my last few minutes and really talk to you about what I have been working on and discovering in the last little while, which is a very specific way to reset, realign, and take charge. And I have found it to really, really help with the hormones. So over the years, I've really become a nutrition expert. I'm not a nutritionist, but I've been studying it forever. And there were very key components that I know, actually, let me back up, that I know make a big difference in that hormonal balance. One of them is to be very alkaline. You're all familiar with that, the acid alkaline balance. So as simple as creating a more alkaline diet can also really help support our cortisol and our other hormones. We created with some other women who are part of this, Kathy's one of them, and Jen, who's on the line, and our friend Erin. Each brings their strength to the table, and the New Way to Age is a community that is focused on using fabulous nutrition that we have been able to tweak these superfoods to make them really, really work. And one of the keys is because it's full of adaptogens, there's one particular thing that helps balance the cortisol. And remember when I talked about that so if you don't balance the cortisol first, it doesn't matter what else is going on. So this program is anchored in this very core, excellent nutrition that people can use so it fits into their lifestyle. It's super easy. That's the other thing. Women don't need complicated, do we? We need simple. I don't know, but I don't know too many women that want to prep long prep foods on Sunday afternoon and live on salad and boiled chicken. Oh my God, I know people who do that. This is not that. This is just about good health, and it's about balancing hormones. And probably most importantly, it's a community. And so because the adaptogens, are you familiar? Adaptogens are herbs and mushrooms that help the body adapt to stress. And I have been working in hormones for over 20 years now. Oh my gosh, is that true? Yes, it is. Adaptogens are a game changer as far as balancing cortisol. Believe me when I say that cortisol is not easy to balance. It is hard. And if, for example, if you were to go see many naturopaths who I greatly respect, they're going to give you a shopping list that is probably yay long of all sorts of different supplements and things to do. And again, women are already stressed. We're already busy. And we're just not going to stick to that. I don't know many people who will. Adaptogens in the right combination allow the body to function better with physical and mental stress, and it works. So our superfood nutrition, the core is something, it's a drink that has 9 of the adaptogens. You don't find that anywhere, and it works. So that's really the key. I teach everybody how to make a green shake, and I mean, it's green. They know, and they like it. It's got avocado, and it's got super greens, so spirulina, and all sorts of other fabulous greens, and a great protein, carb, fat powder that's a full meal, and it tastes good. Do you still get to eat food? Of course you do, but you want to put the right stuff in your body, because that's how our hormones are balanced, and that's how we feel really good. Detoxing is also a key component. I spoke about reducing the toxic load. So you do want to be doing a healthy, not a laxative, not a diuretic. You want to be able to pull those toxins out so your body is actually able to reset and feel better. I want to emphasize this is not about weight loss. We're talking about hormones here. This is all shapes and sizes, can be hot and sexy and whatever you choose to be. It's really about loving yourself and feeling good. I think at the end of the day, it's about waking up in the morning and feeling energized and carpe diem, seize the day, that you really feel good, great even. That's what optimum health is. And I know both Jacqueline and I, that's what we want for any woman that we work with. I've just got a couple of things to share, and I think in the replay we can actually put the links, right, Jacqueline? I also would be happy to do a complimentary 20 minutes where we can talk about your hormones, talk about possible fits with our New Way to Age reset program, or any other tips that I might be able to direct you or give you. And you can reach me at my email, which will go into the replay. We also have a Facebook group, but I didn't know about yours, Jacqueline. I can't wait to poke around. Ours is called Crack the Menopause Code. And I do have a lot of women in there, and a lot of great support is going on. So it's excellent. I also do a video every week, and I have a YouTube channel, and I think they're very informative. So I'm told, and they cover from health, hormones, sexuality, and that's at embracinghormones.tv, and that can go out into the replay as well. And let me just stop that. It's a lot of information, I know, but I don't want to really go over our time. And I think I always say, after we've learned hormones and learned all about this, there's probably so many takeaways, and you know more now about cortisol and probably your other hormones than most of your family doctors, just saying. So, and that's okay, because that's what empowerment is, right?
Yeah. I want to just go back to when you talked about magnesium, just a very specific point. I discovered the importance of magnesium about a year or year and a half ago, when I was doing my work all about also hormones and menopause and changes and what goes on, and solutions for symptoms. And it seems that this magnesium glycinate is just, every woman should be taking it. Every woman. I know we spoke about it on the Facebook group, but magnesium glycinate is something that women just have never really heard of, and every woman should be taking it. So I'm really happy that you brought that up.
I am too, and I do have several videos. Actually, they're probably my most well-watched videos where I do dive into magnesium. There's numerous different kinds of magnesium, but glycinate is going to be, for most women, is your best bet. So yeah. Oh, Jen's having a green shake right now. I love that, Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything that you want to just add, any like sort of summary sentence, Camille, that you want to add? I'm going to also ask anyone, if you've got comments or questions, you can actually, if you want, unmute yourself. And if you have a question, you can ask a question. If you want to write it in the chat to anything that I said, anything that Camille said, feel free to ask us questions now in the chat. And if you're watching on replay, you can send me an email, you can send Camille an email, you can reach us at both of our Facebook groups to ask any questions that you have if you're watching us on replay, and we can't answer you personally. So anything, Camille, that you really want to add as a sort of summary sentence, or anything you want to like your take home for everyone? You know, we want to hear what everyone's take home is, but is there a take home for you that you you know, want to leave everyone with?
I think it's just simply that you are your own best health advocate. And you sit in the driver's seat of your health, and knowledge is power. So arm yourself with knowledge so that you're in a position to make the best decisions for you. What works for me may not be best for you. And so that's it. Be your own best health advocate. And that requires some due diligence. And, you know, kudos for showing up here today, because that's part of what it's all about.
Yeah. So while we wait to see if anyone else wants to ask a question in the chat or let us know about your takeaway. Yes, Kathy.
You know, I was wondering, it's the term menopause. Is it used sort of like once you have menopause, like in, like, say your late 50s to 60s, whatever you've done, you mean, let's say you're 70, are you still in menopause?
So I will quickly answer it. Camille, you can definitely answer afterwards. I would say that there are 3 clear stages of menopause journey. One is perimenopause, which are those beginning years with all the symptoms which people think are menopause, but really it's actually perimenopause. You have that very short window of time, which is menopause, which is really that leading up to that last period and the year or so afterwards, and then postmenopause. Now, the big question is, are you forever in postmenopause? Yeah. Or at some point in time, do you transition to, you know, just being menopause plus or 60 plus? So I would say, I think it really depends on how you've experienced your menopause journey and whether you are still suffering from menopause symptoms. You know, are you still hormonally imbalanced? Some women still feel the side effects of menopause well into their 60s. So they would say, you know, they're still experiencing menopause symptoms. So I think a lot of it is how you experience your menopause journey will impact how you are in those post-menopause years. And for some women, they are still experiencing symptoms. For others, they're not at all. So that's how I would answer it. I don't know, Camille, if you have a different answer.
I would agree with that. I think it becomes semantics. I mean, menopause, I agree, is the day where you cease to have your period for 12 months. But many people would say they are in the phase of menopause, meaning just post-menopause. That's a term used. I'm post-menopause. So they had the day, and now I'm post-menopause. I think it's important to find the language that empowers you, that you can speak, that relate to.
Great, thank you. And really, really wonderful, wonderful. My time very well spent. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad, Kathy. We're very glad to hear that.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
I'll be sharing.
If there's anyone else that has a comment while you're thinking or writing your questions or comments in the chat, I will just say my one takeaway or thing that I really want to impart to everyone is that the menopause language that you may be familiar with is not the way that our modern menopause experience needs to be today.
Yeah.
There is a language that is associated to menopause, but I think in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, things have really, really been changing, and we're opening up the conversation. We're talking about it with different language, with much more empowered language, with much more information and knowledge. I actually don't like using the word symptoms at all for menopause. I prefer using the word side effects, because symptoms triggers up those connotations of illness and disease, and you go to your doctor because you've got problems, and so he diagnoses it and you have symptoms of your disease. But there is so much changing in the world of women's health and menopause language and conversation. So that's really what I would say to everyone, is that let's start embracing this modern menopause experience and language.
I like that. That's more empowering for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this
everyone.
has been lovely. This has been wonderful. Thank you all for showing up. Jacqueline, thank you for having me. I was thrilled to do that with you. I learned a lot from you as well.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Have a fantastic day, evening. It's evening for me, but I know it's daytime still for some of you. So really, thank you, Camille, for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for showing up.
It was excellent. Thank you very much to both of you. Well done. Very informative. And yeah, learned a lot. Thank you very much to both of you. Excellent evening.
I'm glad that you're here, and nice to meet Jacqueline's mum.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Let me, don't know if my error is still there. I will remove her.
There we go.
Yay.
That was great.
It was amazing. Thank you. Wow. I just love all your stuff that you, that you say. Really, it's so,
well, you too.
So informative, really. And I'm so impressed that you have so many different Facebook groups that you're running and managing, and that you're like,
well, I don't do it all by myself. I have Lori, who really is kind of the behind the scenes person, and she does all the tech stuff, and I just do my best to do content and comment and stuff. But it's not, they kind of feed into one another, and that's what you can be doing too. Like the Crack the Menopause Code is almost, I think, 750 women. And so, I move them when I speak to certain ones, and I'm pretty careful. I don't go out and solicit. I kind of wait till people are asking me stuff. But if they do want to get started with the reset, the isogenics, then I move them into the new way to age.